Hi there. Welcome to the second episode of what I look for when hiring UX and product designers. My name is Dan Lindhout, and I'm a VP of Product Design, UX Research, and Technical Writing teams. Manage a team a little bit over 60 folks, and I've hired a lot of product designers, UX researchers in the last 25 years. So in the first episode, we talked about the three things I look for specifically in junior to mid-level designers, which is one, a deep passion for what technology can do in terms of doing good in the world to improve people's lives. Two, somebody who lives and breathes design, right? Designs things at work, in school, at home, and just can't help themselves. And then three, some portfolio samples showing good foundation in terms of design process and steps, so that the toolbox is there. So in this episode, I'll dive deeper into additional things I look for. And then in the next episode, episode 3, I'll talk about what I look for with more senior product designers or UX designers. So the first thing I look for, in addition to the ones we talked about in episode 1, is a deep passion and empathy for users. Of course, as a product designer, UX designers, you will be designing things for user groups out there. So genuinely being interested in other people and what their goals are, what their background is, what makes them tick, what makes them frustrated, is actually really, really important. And not just to understand your end users, genuinely wanting to dive in, but also to really understand the people that you will be collaborating with in the team. Product and UX designers obviously always have to work with, product managers and engineers and QA, and really, compromise towards common goals, taking business requirements and technical limitations into account. So somebody who shows genuine interest in those teammates, like where are they coming from, why are they thinking the way they are thinking, and then takes that into account to move forward, is really, really important there as well. So during the interview loop or the screener, or maybe as displayed on the portfolio side, right, questions and genuinely being interested in users and where other people are coming from is really, really important. Or asking questions, right, during those conversations about the team and people you'll be working with, and where they're coming from, is really important. The time of the lone designer, right, designing things by themselves is long gone, or maybe it was never really there. The second thing I look for is some experience with complex application design. And you will encounter, right, complexity no matter what as a UX or product designer these days. And that complexity can come in many forms. So you can pick one of those and show that in your portfolio. It could, for example, be complex workflows for a complex set of users who have different goals, who need to collaborate with each other through the products. It could be a workflow that is going through several different products, maybe even hardware and software together, and that bringing a lot of complexity to the mix. It could be you had to take technical limitations into account, that made the design complex, or maybe business goals, versus user, satisfaction problems that could be complex as well. It could even be showing states of a different UI that you needed to take into account. So for example, when the data isn't loading yet, what does that look like? When the data has loaded, what does it look like? When the data has loaded, but some of it, right, didn't come in, and there's some errors, in the UI, in the workflow, right? What does that look like? So those like less common states can show complexity too. The next thing I look for is some experience with data visualization. Just like complexity, you will encounter some type of data visualization in most of the things you work on. And of course, data visualization can come in many different forms, and you can pick one of those, right, to show and highlight. Of course, dashboards or, graphs are primary, right, data visualization. But data visualization really comes in many forms. But if you think about a list of items like a grid or a table, and the way things are displayed in there, when you sort and filter, what that looks like, that's a great example of data visualization. Maybe, right, if you think about it, tables might be the most common form of data visualization. So some samples showing that you will encounter it, and seeing that a little bit in a portfolio, or maybe even a design exercise of some kind, is very, very valuable. The next thing is a great portfolio site. And in my world, in my mind, a great portfolio site isn't necessarily a beautiful, right, branded visual design with like a personal brand in there and things like that. A great portfolio site is focused on making it very easy for hiring managers and others to really get a great sense of the projects you worked on and the thought process you went through, as well as get a good sense of the breadth of the work you've done, right? So for example, making it very easy that if you're looking at one project, you get to the end, to navigate to the next project that you might want to look at. That's really important. Making it easy to very quickly get an overview of the breadth and then dive in and see, right, the details of a project can be really important. So really an easy to use portfolio site. Doesn't have to have a ton of work on it. Be good to show, right, the main kind of projects that you believe were solid. Maybe not everything you've done in the past, although I do encourage people that have been in the field for a little while to also show some old work, right? Most hiring managers will be able to place that old work in the context of what UX and product design, visual design were like at the time. And they will know what good looks like, taking that into account, even if the designs look right, hopelessly outdated today, right? Think of something from 2008 or 2009 that's showing maybe mobile design, right? It's going to look hopelessly outdated, but good hiring managers will know how to put that in context and see value, and bring understanding to having that in your portfolio site. And then the last thing for this episode, and this sometimes is a controversial one, I do look for designers that have a little bit of an ego and some ability to cause trouble. You don't want big egos, right? As I mentioned, the time of the lone genius designer doing things by themselves is long gone, or maybe was never there. But you do want a little bit of an ego and the ability to really stand up, for what you think is best in terms of user experience and design. Stand up to maybe the business goals or the technical limitations and requirements that you're competing with, and don't, roll over too quickly. So for example, if I talk to an engineering team and I ask them, like, how has it been working with this UX or product designer? And they say, oh, it's been, amazing. They're so easy to work with. I actually get a little suspicious, thinking maybe, right, we compromise too quickly. Maybe this, UX or product designer isn't standing up enough, for the things from a user perspective that are the best, and is compromising too quickly, tailoring towards maybe engineering implementation ease or business goals to take into account. So a little bit of an ego, not a big one, a little bit, I think is great. And, if there's an example of a conflict that you ran into in the past with an engineering lead or a product manager or something like that, it's actually great to hear. It will happen. Of course, you want to see examples where you were able to resolve the conflict effectively and positively and did not, damage the working relationship. But it's fine if there's some conflict. It's actually interesting to hear about. All right, well, that's it for episode 2. As I mentioned in episode 3, I'll dive into specific things that I'm looking for in more senior product design and UX folks. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.